What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning? Way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises early in the morning.
Welcome back to Mages and Sages interview with the Old Mage with our final installment of our interview with Erin Evans. I do hope you enjoy, but please stay tuned for next time. We are going to be interviewing Erik Evans. Until then, enjoy the rest of the interview.
Early in the morning.
We'll put him in a longboat till he's sober. Put him in a longboat till he's sober. Put him in a longboat till he's sober. Early in the morning.
Way hey, and up she rises.
Knock on the door. Do you have time to talk about vomit?
Everybody slams the door here. No.
Exactly.
I imagine the Dragonborn have a very robust tradition of medicine since they don't have a lot of healers. But I had a character become the Chosen of Enlil and have to bring worship to the Dragonborn, who basically could only handle it by going okay, this is basically a sellsword contract. We will worship you for 2 years,
Right.
And in exchange, you will defend our city and give us healing magic. And in 2 years, we'll revisit this contract because that makes more sense.
It does make more sense.
And especially, something like a god who can decide what they look like. Why would you need to specify a dragon god? And even then, a dragon god for the Dragonborn is a terrible plan.
I agree.
That was my rant.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you. Hey, it looks like we had Erik Boyd join us.
Hi.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
No, it's okay. No worries.
How y'all doing?
Probably.
Hey, Erik.
Hey, sorry, I've been spending the whole week on conference calls and just totally spaced.
Working at home too.
Oh, yeah. Non-stop.
No, we understand. We're just talking here with Erin. So the reason why I put this next question up is because it has Erik in it also, Erik Boyd. I mean, Erik Scot to be. Do you go solitary to
So
concentrate?
which Erik do you mean?
No.
You just said both of us.
I meant Erik Scot.
I mean Erik Boyd. I mean Erik to be. All right.
All right.
Here's the question.
Here's
All
the
right.
question. Do you go solitary to concentrate, or do you feed off the energy of D&D sessions with Erik as Dungeon Master? And tell us more about we already talked about the sessions, but
It doesn't really seem like a question for me, Jeff. That seems like a question for Erin.
No, it's for Erin, but it has you in it. That's the reason why.
Okay, good. All right.
I tend to go solitary, but I definitely, for writing anyway, when I sort of hit a snag, I have found I need to talk about it. I need to talk it out. And fortunately, I am very good friends with my former editor, Susan J. Morris. So usually I will text her and be like, can I call you and talk at you? And 80% of the time, it's just I have to say what I'm stuck on. And when it comes out of my mouth, it will kind of unkink and fix itself. And I'll be like, oh, it's this. But then that other 20%, she's really valuable for going, well, what about this? And what about this? And we work together long enough that we're very in sync. As for so the energy of the D&D sessions. So this is a thing that I find really fascinating about playing in this game is when we're performing, we're playing the game, I feel really calm and really at ease and I'm enjoying myself and it's great. And then we take the break and I walk back there and I am vibrating with energy. I'm just like I took 3 shots of espresso. Okay, let's go. And
Can
come
confirm.
off of it.
Yeah,
It's
definitely like that.
Oh my god, I'm so exhausted. And once we've been maybe we should go out for drinks afterwards because we, sometimes we'll do a post-mortem and sort of talk about how things went, and that's more fun and easier when you're in person, and also just to celebrate. But at the end of everyone, I'm just I'm wiped. It's
talking about going out to drinks afterward, and we keep not doing it.
I honestly, every time we finish, I'm like, I think I'm gonna fall asleep if I have a beer. But maybe I just need to move my coffee later so that then I'm more awake for the beer afterwards. No, it's a lot of fun. It's I think part of it being such a sort of complex, nuanced story. The combination of remembering what you've planned and also doing the sort of improv bits, it takes a lot of mental energy that you don't realize you're using, and then you're at the end and you're like, oh. So it's collaborative and it's awesome.
No, absolutely. That was a great answer, actually. Thank you. Curry, you want to take this next one? You can't hear you. Did you mute yourself?
Yeah, I did.
Hey, wait, hold on. Ed, you saw Erik Boyd joined us.
Yes, hi.
Have to behave, Ed.
It's too late for that,
Oh,
Erik.
you missed it earlier. It's okay.
And it's not me. I have been pure as the driven snow, or at least that's the story I'm going to stick to.
Oh my God.
I'm old enough to know the answer to that one.
Well, there are ladies present.
It's okay. I don't mind, Ed.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you got to watch out for my delicate sensibilities. I think, yeah, I think the rest of us are holding our own pretty well.
Well,
what's that next question, Curry?
All right, Curry, go ahead.
Okay, another one from Spike Murphy. It says here, what happened to the Platinum Dragonborn of Bahamut that existed on Toril before the Spell Plague, and which were created by transmuting other demi-humans? Erik, you want to give it a swirl?
Erik with a C, go.
They're passing it around.
Hey, there are two Eriks here.
No, you gotta tell which one it is.
I'm gonna say no. Dragonborn are not really my thing. I mostly leave that to Erin, and if Erin's gonna defer, then I am certainly not gonna pick that up. So
the Dragonborn of Bahamut are like a entirely different thing, and this is another reason why I prefer the Demonym Viamniri, because this confusion is frustrating.
Sure, of course.
Right.
But I assume they are doing their thing. They are living their life. They are just, existing to the fullness of Bahamut, which is interesting.
Okay. I don't dig it. Love it.
No, that's perfect. I like that. So I think this next question is a little bit more along of something you can discuss more. If you were running the Wizards book program, that was still going on, right?
Oh, okay.
And you can give yourself. This is for everybody if you want. And it was still going on. You could give yourself novel slots to write any realm's fiction. What would you want to write about next, or most? Continuing Faraday's career, or something else?
So before they announced the hiatus, I was planning I kind of had in my mind a second series. So the Brimstone Angel saga is sort of, I called it the Dark Shepherd arc. So it is kind of moving Asmodeus into his current situation, and also Farida dealing with what it means to have this Warlock Pact, and also, moving from being a teenager to being an adult. Right. And so my second arc planned was she ends up being a bounty hunter for Asmodeus, and she hunts bad guys, basically. But the only thing was that the plan was that this started where she would trade the souls of the evildoers, sort of, for to protect her sister was pregnant and she was going to have a baby, and so it was to this baby from collector devils, and then also they would find out that Havilar and her man Bryn had a secret baby. But when they went on hiatus, I was like, I already laid all these secret baby clues, so I jammed them in the last book, and so that would kind of throw off my balance there. But she could still be a bounty hunter for the Hells. I think that would be kind of cool. Would
it be like a Gamora character to like the Gamora to Thanos?
Interesting.
Maybe they have sort of a, I don't bother you, you don't bother me kind of situation right now. I have to admit, I always wanted to write a book in Rashomon, but when I had the opportunity, the two times I had an opportunity to sort of pitch something new, other people were in Rashomon and I wasn't allowed, so I would do that. And honestly, I would probably pitch the Cecilia Artemisia saga because I'm very much enjoying it.
Right.
It is a cool story, and they have such a great dynamic.
There are so many secrets that I want to tell you, but I'm not going to ruin the stream.
No, we don't want you to do anything.
Come watch our show.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Erik, how about you? Taking out, of course, the continuing Faraday's career, unless you just want to rip it from Erin's
You
paw
mean
over there.
Farida, right?
Oh, Farida, I'm sorry.
There's no one named Faraday.
me
Well,
it looks
there
like
is in
Faraday.
our, but not in the realm.
Farida, sorry. To me, it looks like, hey, it's that whole Minza Baranzan, Minza Baranzan thing, okay?
Yeah, I know. One is right, one is wrong. I get
Well,
it.
thank you.
Okay, what would I write if I were able to write whatever I wanted? Is that the question, basically?
Correct. If you were
well-
controlling the book program.
I would, about a month after taking over the book program, put out Shadowbane 4, because I have
There you
about
go.
half of it written already, and it's just sitting there, just waiting, just waiting. But this would tie into the Cecilia Artemisia Chronicles because it's about Westgate, and it's about a bunch of the characters who show up on our stream. Like, our stream is a little bit the continuing adventures of my Shadowbane characters.
Right.
Right? They keep showing up as NPCs. Cecilia has a very contentious relationship with Ilra, for instance, who is...
She stabbed me. I'm just
and
going to say.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's unreasonable. It is absolutely reasonable. But there's a huge amount of tension between that. And, Shadowbane shows up to help the PCs periodically. And then Mirren shows up, and she's adorable and fun, and everyone loves her. Until things happen. We'll see. Anyway, if I were doing those books, that's what I would publish. I would continue the Shadowbane story, because the third novel, Eye of Justice, just kind of ends. And it ends on sort of a cliffhanger, not on the resolution or completion of that arc, right?
Right.
There's more story to tell, and I'd like to finish the story. And it's a good ending. Oh my god. All right, fine.
And that ending is.
Yeah, there
Alright.
you go. And
Watch our stream, is what I'm saying.
there you go. Don't want to give anything away. And Ed, how about you, since you're the creator of all this trouble?
Oh dear. My problem is I still have, when TSR bought the realms, Jeff said, okay, we need you to do a big novel that introduces the realms, like a tour. So that was Spellfire. And
Right.
Spellfire was simply a plot device to keep this little kitchen girl alive. in the jaws of all of the major power groups of the realms, which would otherwise be totally unrealistic for
Right.
the length of the book. And at that point, Jeff said, I need you to lay out just the elevator pitches for 12 novels. And about half of those got farmed out to designers at TSR who'd never done a novel before, but would really like to.
Right.
And the other half got deep sixed. They just never saw the light of day because things went mad with the realms, and they were pumping out game product and bolting games or adventures that had nothing to do with the realms onto the realms as fast as they could, and pumping them out, because they expected this thing to be really hot, a fad, and then sell out and then end. So it was like, let's make hay while the sun shines, get the company really, pumped, make a lot of money, and then find the next hobby horse. They didn't expect the thing to have legs. So as a result, there's tons and tons of, if you want to know about the realms, you really should follow these 14 characters. There's a lot of those, which I never ever got the chance to do. And I would love to do them. It doesn't mean I will ever get the chance to do them.
Right.
And I would have to go back and unearth the whole list. And some of them we can't do anymore because the established timeline of the realms has killed off some people, killed off some plot points. So we couldn't do them. But yeah, I have a whole pile of them. And I would also get away from every single book you do has to have Elminster in it. That was part of the...
Oh my god. Really?
Everyone has an iconic character, and Elminster is yours, so make sure he's in every book. So I literally had a scene in one book where they're walking through a picture gallery, and one portrait on the wall is a portrait of Elminster. And after the characters walk past, Elminster winks at the reader. Hi, I'm here. And
Here's
to
your
her
goddamn-
eternal credit, Susan said, "Chop."
That's
See,
funny.
most of the time she was inheriting the mantle of a TSR editor. Ed, did you put this sex scene in just to embarrass me? Okay, I'm gonna take it out, tear it off the fanfold, and read it to everybody in Cubicle Land, which is what they used to do in the old TSR. They would stand up on their chairs, which was, an employee hazard right there, and read out loud the sex scene at the top of their voices, and everybody who was busy editing would stop and go, "Oh, it's story time, children." But I had to stop doing that because I was putting them in for the entertainment and amusement of the editrixes who would tear them off and take them home to keep forever because they couldn't make them into the books until one of them let them through into a book.
No, which book?
Oh, can't say.
Oh,
It's now a guessing game. You have to find it.
I have all of them.
It was
so
very,
I'll
it was
find
very mild, but when they went through, the management said, "Oh my God!"
Was it Queen
So that
Fairfarrell?
game had to stop. Yeah.
Wait, was it Queen Fairfarrell? Huh?
Queen Fairfarrell, yeah. Okay, no, because the sex scenes with her got cut out. I mean, because I went whole hog there. It was okay. We
No
can do
pun intended.
Harlequins. Yeah, and we did because I knew they would get chopped.
Right.
So I just said, okay, here's your reward for reading through all my stuff. Because, well, you see, the thing is, in those days, in the TSR days, production was always ahead because they didn't have to do any work until the stuff was in their hands.
Right.
And creative people were always behind because their time was being wasted in meetings. It was one of those corporations where they gave good meeting. So when you should have been in your cubicle getting stuff done, you were in a meeting, which is why some people came in the middle of the night just to get their stuff done.
Right.
Without meetings. And what that meant was most of the book editors would be handed something and have 3 days or 4 days to edit it before production wanted it. So it was going to go get hit print. So the poor editors and editrixes were like, okay, here's my 1 day turnaround. And that was for those of us who made our deadlines.
Right.
I mean, wow. It was like, talk about chop shop. And quite often somebody says, well, why is this in a novel? Or why was it like that? It's like, because I was too bloody tired when I was writing the thing. That novel I wrote in 18 days or whatever. Elminster the Making of a Mage was written in 16 days. Weekend. 2-day weekend.
Wow.
Eric, you're not listening. You didn't hear the whole thing. It's 600,000 words originally.
Oh my God.
In 8 2-day week or 4 weekends you said?
No, 8 2-day weekends.
8 2-day weekends.
4 for the first
600,000.
draft.
Yeah.
And then the rest was, okay, we had to chop from here to here out of the book because originally it was going to be a trilogy. So I wrote the trilogy. And they say, oh, we changed our mind. It has to be one book. So we cut from here to here. Just stitch it together. And the reason that was done is because there was no time.
Right.
There was no time to send it back to the author to rewrite the book. It was like, production wants this. We can stall them for 2 or 3 days by saying we lost a file or something. That's good for 2 or 3 days. Ed, could you quickly stitch this together because it has to hit production? And that is the way all the Deathless Masterpieces got done. Sometimes, I can remember Rob King saying, there's lots of tired prose in this book, Ed, or rather, prose from a tired author. I mean, falling asleep at the keyboard. Sentences that say, so-and-so said, blah, 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 he said. Because I was just dog tired at the keyboard after a full day of work and had to pump this thing out. And it's terrible, but that's how too much of the stuff was done. So there's lots of stuff I would like to have a chance to tackle with a little more time, because then scenes that you wanted, like for instance, this played into the hands of the ethos of the time. They wanted fast action. They wanted sword fights. In fact, I can recall another editor whose name I will not mention, who said,
But rhymes with.
no, we're not playing that game.
All right.
Who said, if I don't see a sword fight or a spell fight every 3 pages, I'm throwing this back at you, because that's not D&D. I want fighting.
Wow.
The Forgotten Realms is guys with swords killing each other and hopefully killing the evil mage before he can get the spell off. And I want to see that all the way through your books. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that you know the editor is going to cut every single introspection scene, every slow-paced scene, every, dare I say it, character development scene, every tender moment is just going to hit the cutting floor. And when you're writing at top speed, it encourages you to write fast action at top speed.
Right.
Because that you can do when you're falling asleep at the wheel. I mean, when you're... So, there are things that I would like to tackle again. Like, say, court intrigues in Cormyr. Wouldn't it be lovely to have everybody have those long scenes, like all the Tudor stuff on TV when we were little kids, where somebody says something, and everybody says, what did he mean by that? I must go away and think about this.
Right.
Did he mean this, or did he mean that? And we didn't have a chance to write that sort of stuff, because it was pressure cooker. It was top speed, pumping that stuff down. Let's get that stuff up to the end of the line so we can all go for lunch, fellas. And it was a terrible way to write stuff. And then everybody says, what's the deep hidden meaning of this here in this chapter 3? And you go, I don't know.
Oh my god. Yeah, but most people weren't writing after driving 2 hours home from work and writing till 3 in the morning, like you were doing with no sleep.
Well, that's true, but but I mean, when you ask what would I like to do, there are a whole bunch of things I'd like to tackle that we never got the chance. But best way to do that would be to sit down with the people who are running the book department and say, okay, let's have this stuff come out in some sort of coherent fashion so they all complement each other, as opposed to everybody writing their own thing in their own darkened room, and you have 2 novels about dwarves coming out in the same month, and then nothing. And the 2 novels contradict each other because the 2 writers didn't know that that sort of stuff. It would be ever so much nicer if everything could be coordinated. And of course, there's Erin just mentioned a perfect example of that. Somebody else was in Rashomon, so I couldn't go there. That's the easy way of keeping people apart. Just keep them geographically separated, because we don't have time for conference calls and people to work things out. And my answer is, why don't you? But anyway,
because you're not paying your writers enough. That's
well, yeah.
Sorry.
For a period of time, Ed, what I was doing, I didn't do it, I don't remember the exact years that I did it, but there was a while that I did it, where what I would do is I would just email the authors, and I would say, somebody mentioned you were writing a book in this country, and then I would send them every reference I knew about that country. Right. And that helped too.
Because that was the only way they were going to get it.
Well, it wasn't fair to them, because no one would tell them, right?
Yeah.
And no one would check. So I just, basically, write them a 30-page Word doc and say, these are all the references that I know about where you're at. And then they do whatever they wanted with it. Ignore it or use it or whatever. But it was fun. And that did help a lot. And my thought was always it would have been a lot stronger if, Wizards or TSR had been doing that from the get-go, right? It was part of the turnover you give to an author is, here's the 30 pages of references that are in the area you want to tell your story. Do whatever you want. Just try to weave in these things, or at least skirt around them, if that makes sense. Because that always adds to the believability to it. So.
Now, Erik, for you, since you were mostly the supplement writer, what would you want to see done by yourself, other than the High Forest?
Well, if I was king, I would basically go back and hire all the writers and get them to write those stories that they never got to tell because they didn't quite fit what the company wanted. I would give them a lot more free reign. That would be the first thing I would do. If I was writing my own, I don't know. I always, as you all know, I can always kind of go on the history part, and I tell those stories. That's the stories I like to tell the most, is to weave the histories together, figure out why there are orcs on this hill and not on that hill, kind of thing.
Right.
But I like to focus in on our region, and so for fun lately I've been writing a new campaign, or actually 2 new campaigns that have gotten me pretty interested and excited. And the one I'm working on right now is in the Desserin River Valley. All the stories always said there's going to be an orc horde, and then no one ever did an orc horde. So I've been trying to figure out, how do you take a group of neophyte adventurers, first level, and they can see the orc horde starting. You know, the first dungeon they go into, the orcs just left because they're migrating north to join the orc horde.
Right.
You know, the 4th adventure, you come across a valley and you see a whole tribe streaming north. So as they grow in strength and power, they just see it getting worse and worse around them, just escalating and escalating.
Right.
And how do you tell a story in those ways? I always thought that would be kind of fun to do. So that'd probably be what I would do.
Again, thank you for joining us for that last part of the interview with Erin Evans and the interview with the Old Mage here at the Mages and Sages podcast. Do hope you enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun doing it. Erik Minji will be up next. We're going to be talking about his new Mouche project that he's got out on the DM's Guild. Have more details on that later, but until then, keep playing in the realms.
Way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises early in the morning.
Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter. Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter. Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter early in the morning.
Way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises early in the morning. That's what we do with the drunken sailor. That's what we do with the drunken sailor. That's what we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning. Way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, way hey.